Hello everyone. Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video tutorial. I've decided to do a new book. It's also a free ebook that is available on the World Xiangqi Federation website. This book is it's part of a trilogy and happens to be the three most important Xiangqi opening books on opening theory in the 1990s and 2000s, and to this day the material that has been presented in the book is still very relevant. And the book was written by Master Yang Wenjing and Grandmaster Zhang Qiang, and so far it has been the book to read on opening theory in modern day Xiangqi. So without further ado, let us begin. Before we continue, I think they have a new reprinted version, a new update of the version that was published in 1 or 2 years ago. I haven't been able to get my hands on the new copy because I still haven't finished reading the old ones. But I think the material is still very relevant, and from what I heard, there were not many new updates. So without further ado, let us begin. Okay. In the free ebook available, I think there were 1 or 2 bots that were not given, and the first 2 were simply an analysis of the ancient manuals, which can be found on my website also. So we will go directly into the third bot in the original book, or the first bot in the free ebook that's available. So in the first bot, analysis of the same direction cannons, one of my favorite openings, and Ray would choose to develop his right chariot as a rank chariot. So file chariot, so far so good. It's very important to develop the rank chariot across the palace. We call this across palace rank chariot, or Gokong Hengji. And RA+4 is considered to be the best viable way to play black at this point in time. There are also many other variations like moving your horse, etc. Okay, both horses are developed as proper horses, and so they black. Now this is very important because in the same direction cannons, the first battlefield would be the central file. So both colors, it will be a good idea for both colors to try to consolidate the central file. Now this was the move that was analyzed. Charging a lone chariot into enemy territory is now generally discouraged. However, this was very prevalent in the ancient manuals and still quite often seen in over-the-board play. Now, if the main idea for playing this move would be the chariot will now be able to harass the black horses because neither pawns have been moved. So this would disrupt the formation of the black pieces and hopefully weaken the overall position of black, and thus Red would try to gain some advantage through the process of doing so. So there are 3 counters that were discussed, and let us see how the Xiangqi experts presented their case. Okay. One thing that they mentioned was that when a lone enemy piece had advanced far too deeply or penetrated far too deeply into the enemy territory, it would become very vulnerable and it would automatically become a target for black to attack. Now, the main topic of discussion in this board would be how should black counter or negate the effects of this chariot. So there were 3 variations as mentioned. The first would be b3 plus 1, the second c5 equals to 6, and the last one c2 plus 2. Now the first 2 variations are not ideal because they would fall into the trap of what Red would want. Now the first variation, p3 plus 3, would seem to be a natural move to do, or a natural move to make, because by pushing the pawn forward, black would get to develop his right horse and also inhibit the development of red's left horse. And if the red chariot tried to play r6 equals 3, the horse could simply move away, then the cannon will protect the horse. However, in this position, the red chariot would play r6 equals to 7. Now threatening to capture the black horse. And the black horse cannot play r7 plus 8 because the cannon will capture the black cannon. So in this situation, this was the move that was given in the book. In this situation, black chose to play h3 plus 4, and this move was analyzed. Comparatively speaking, h7 minus 5 to link the horses at the centroid would have been a better move. Now this move would trap the red chariot, but red will still have still get the upper hand because red will now be able to play r9 plus 1 and most probably r9 equals to 4 to attack both the red files. Now with the horse at the central position, the black palace would be very congested, and this is a very dangerous situation to be in. So h7 minus 5 would have been better, but red would still have the advantage. Now in the book, h3 plus 4 was played. Now this was a very bad blunder. Why would this be so? Because red will now apply a cannon skewer. Now there's a very there are a few peculiar names for this skewer. The chariot will now be threatening to capture the black horse, which is protected by the black chariot. Unfortunately, neither these two pieces can be moved. For example, if the horse tried to move away, the chariot will be captured. And an often used tactic in this situation would be to push the pawn forward. Before we continue, I would like to explain the Chinese names for the skewer. This is a cannon skewer. There are two names that I know of. The first would be Ho Lama. Ho would be monkey, La would be pole, and Ma would be horse. So this would essentially be the cannon would be described as a monkey pulling the horse and applying a skewer. Another Chinese name, which is more poetic, would be Si Si Qian Niu, whereby Si Si is can be translated as a thin thread or something like that. Qian would be to pull again, to hold the leash of an animal, and Niu would be bull. So the cannon would be described as pulling the bull delicately with this move. So at this point in time, black would be in deep trouble because material would seem to be lost. There are many ways to gain material for red. So one of them would be p7 plus 1. And another possibility would be to play r7 equals to 6 to threaten to gain material. In the book, black tried to defend with p7 plus 1. So this would in effect be threatening to would be sacrificing the black horse immediately. So early in the opening stage, black had already used up two moves: one h8 plus 7, h6 plus 6, and to be captured by the red cannon. So this would not only be a loss in material, it would also be a loss in tempo. Now, would a4 plus 5 be viable? No, because if a4 plus 5 were played, red would immediately play p7 plus 1, trying to push the pawn across the river. And even if the cannon tried to block it, red would simply capture the cannon in this manner, and red would still gain material. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So either way, black would lose material. Now, returning to this position, when p7 plus 5 was played. Now, some might wonder, would c7 minus 3 be an option because red would still seem to gain material? The answer would be no, because as the chariot was more valuable than the horse, black would simply play e7 a3 plus 1 to threaten to capture the chariot. Now the chariot will have to move away, for example, back to riverbank, and Red will free himself of the skewer, and he could now simply move the horse away and to gain material. So for example, maybe capturing the central pawn, etc. would be viable options. Now Black would have wasted. Now at this point in time, Black would actually have seized the initiative away from Red, because the chariot had used up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves in the first 10. It accounted for over 10 flies, and this would be a great loss of initiative. So that is why c7 minus 3 cannot be played, and pu7 plus 1 should have been played to gain material. Now if r7 equals to 6 were played, Black would simply protect his pieces with c2 equals to 4. So the only viable option would be p7 plus 1. So after playing p7 plus 1 to sacrifice the horse, back to the main line, Red would capture material, and Black would try to be compensated by pushing his pawn across the river. Now, at this point in time, the best way for Red would simply to capture the offending pawn and counter-sacrifice material. Now, this would be a simple no-nonsense approach, and Red will still have the initiative firmly in hand. So if p3 plus 1 were played, Red would now take the opportunity to develop more pieces. And as can be seen, all of the red major pieces would have been well developed, and Red would also have eliminated his biggest weakness on the board, the left horse, and its development. So things would be looking good for Red and not so good for Black. And the development of this Black chariot will be a big issue for Black. So Red will continue to grow from strength to strength. So a quick recap: after advancing the enemy chariot, which is a deceptive move, not so commonly seen nowadays, Black should not counter with p3 plus 1. Now, would it be a good idea for Black to counter with c5 equals to 6 to try to adopt the sandwich horse defense formation? The answer will be a resounding no either. This was not mentioned in the book, but if Red tried to play r6 equals to 3, it will be a cannon skewer. So Black would turn the tables instead. So that is why Red cannot play r6 equals to 3. So sorry. So if Black tried to adopt the sandwich horse defense, which is not advised, Red would charge the central pawn forward and start to attack from the central file. Now this would be a very, very potent attack, because both the horses are now in place, and Black would have trouble moving an elephant to the central file, because the red chariot had already blocked, and he would have blocked the elephants and prevented them from being linked. So in effect, this would have weakened Black's central file, and it would be a blistering red attack. So the correct move, or the recommended move at this point in time, would be to consolidate the central file immediately with a6 plus 5. Black should not try to attempt a skewer, which is one of the main purposes or functions of this Pell corner cannon, because Red will simply sacrifice material and force the Black chariot to capture. If Black did not capture the pawn, Red would simply play r6 equals to 7 and command a great advantage. Now if by doing so, if Red tried to play r6 equals to 7, the horses could be linked at the centroid again, and Black would be prevented from losing material so early. So that is why r8 equals to 5 would be recommended. And at this point in time, it would seem that red would be in a dilemma because red was bound to lose material. However, red could simply counter with h7 plus 5. Now, the cannon would now be threatening to capture the black chariot, and so even if the black cannon captured the red cannon, it would be a trade of material, and usually losing a chariot so early in the game would spell trouble. So that's why black would be forced to capture the red horse, and black would gain back lost material. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the material for both colors would be roughly similar, but red would have developed most of his major pieces. Red could now play r9 equals to 8, or simply move the cannon c4 plus 5 for a discovered attack on the black chariot and to gain material. So as can be seen, black would be in a lot of trouble. So that is why, returning back to the position after red had advanced the chariot, c5 equals to 6 would not be an option. So, sorry. Okay, so that is why advancing the cannon would also be inappropriate. If black did not make this move, red would simply continue to attack from the central file. So either way, c5 equals to 6 would not be appropriate. The best optimal move in this situation would perhaps be c2 plus 2 to advance the cannon, black's right cannon, to the riverbank rank. Now this is a very versatile approach to the situation. Black would not need to fear any threat of r6 equals to 7 because he could link the horses or play c2 equals to 3. Now, to prevent black from playing c2 equals 3 and also attacking his horses, red would play p7 plus 1. But at this point in time, black would shift his focus and play c2 equals to 7 to threaten this horse. Now, one way to protect this horse would be to move this horse away so that the cannon can protect the red horse. But how should red move this horse? The first would be h7 plus 8, which is one advantage of doing so would be to hinder the development of black's right chariot, which has not moved up till now. Now, this would be a more aggressive option. h7 plus 6 might seem to be a decent option because the red horse will be brought nearer to the center of the board, and it could still be a factor. But if h7 plus 6 were played, black would get the option of developing his right chariot. So let's say red continue to attack with c8 equals to 7, threatening to advance the pawn. Black would actually do so faster, and after trading pawns, capturing material, and as can be seen, black would actually have the significant upper hand in this situation because both his chariots are now well developed. Black was threatening to capture the central pawn, and the function of this red chariot would be minimal at best. And the cannon would still need a few more moves to become a decent threat. So that is why h7 plus 6 would not be as aggressive as h7 plus 8 to deny or prevent the black chariot from being developed. So if in the book, black would continue to target this weakness with r8 plus 1 for the cross riverbank rank chariot. Now this is a good move. Now, one might wonder, couldn't red make this move to protect the pawn? The answer is yes, but as can be seen, after making this move, red's general formation would become weakened. The central file would become weakened, and this could pose several serious problems later on. So, and another question that people might ask would be, what would happen if black chose to trade material now. Now this would not be a good idea because after so much effort, both the formation, the red formation and black formation will be relatively equal, and comparatively speaking, because the pawn had been advanced and the cannon was now targeting this horse, red will have a better situation overall. So c7 plus 3 was not better. Instead, ra plus 1 to target the pawn and the red horse on the cross river bank rank might have been better. So weakening the weakening red's formation. And at this point in time, black would use up another move to play ra plus 1 to capture the pawn and attack, adding a lot of pressure on this file. Now this might seem to be a waste of moves, but it was all part of black's plan. Now another possible viable option would be to play p3 plus 1, because the red pawn cannot capture the pawn, or the horse will be lost. But comparatively speaking, this variation would not be as aggressive or vicious as the suggested move. So if p3 plus 1 were played, it would be a natural move for red to push the pawn to try to capture and be compensated with some material. Now, at this point in time, it would be appropriate for black to trade material, because now the chariot was in place, forcing the cannon away, and black could now capture the elephant and have a considerable advantage in terms of position at this point in time. Now, as can be seen, red central cannon would now not be protected. The horse would not have many good places to go. The left chariot was not developed yet. Now, so far, after advancing the chariot, the red chariot has not done anything else. Now, red would have many options to attack from, like c4 plus 5, etc., etc. But generally speaking, black would have turned the tables and would now have a slight advantage in the game. I ran this position through the computer, and black did have a small advantage as suggested by the book. So, a lesson to be learned, a short review. This move is considered to be a deceptive move in Xiangqi, which happens to be the title of the book, Xiangqi Deception and its countermeasures. Now, this is not a good idea because the red chariot would not have any backup, and it was vulnerable to any possible attacks by black, and it would become an automatic target. Now, how could red further utilize the potential of this chariot would be a big issue. So, however, black would have to be careful. p3 plus 1 cannot be played. Neither will c5 equals to 6 to change formations at this point in time be a good idea. Now, if the chariot were at this position, perhaps c5 equals to 6 would have been a good idea, because the elephants would still have been linked. Now, the best optimal option would be c2 plus 2, whereby black will fight back aggressively and try to make gains in the situation. So I hope you've enjoyed this portion or this video that I've done. I'm still experimenting and trying to learn how to make better videos or explain more, certain concepts even more clearly as I go along. If you like my work, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and have a nice day.